Okay, and I'm recording. Um, Go ahead and just talk about your case and what happened, whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, well, the short version is I was stopped for not having a license plate on the car. They didn't ask me for bills of sale or anything like that to verify the validity of the car to be driven. I stood on my constitutional grounds of freedom of passage and some of those things that police generally don't like to hear, and claim my non-commercial jurisdiction right out of the get-go. After I had a convertible top, and they noticed a prescription bottle on my dash console, and one of the officers reached in and grabbed that, found a couple of marijuana buds in that, so they decided that they felt free searching some of my other possessions in my car, under which they found nothing. But in the interim, I picked up a little fanny pack that I had and zipped it with my teeth. I happen to be a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and one of the officers started exclaiming that I took drugs. So they ended up writing citations. I don't know what they were because I refused to sign them. After about 30-40 minutes of back and forth with them and them checking me out and more officers showing up, and they turned out to write what amounted to 2 misdemeanors, one for possession of marijuana in the car, which I had no idea was against the law. I maybe should have thought that, having a prescription for marijuana for 12 years, and then also another misdemeanor of destroying evidence, which of course was this dream that he came up with when I zipped this fanny pack, and then the infraction of having the non-registration on the car. When I started, I went to first arraignment. I took a discovery form for the DA that I wanted to get all of the transcripts, all of the time logs and things, so I could build my case against the police for their harassment. Because I did wind up, they tried to take me to jail, but since they figured I was under the influence of drugs, they first had to get me cleared through the emergency room at the hospital, and I wouldn't sign the waiver form in the hospital, so they couldn't waiver me out of the hospital, so they couldn't get me into jail. They bounced me back and forth, and I wound up having quite a nightmare of being sedated and shot with antipsychotic drugs because I was pretty upset about being kidnapped and assaulted and tortured, is what it amounted to. When I went to my first arraignment, I had this discovery form, and I went with getting a public defender because at the time I thought that was the way to go. I hadn't spoken with you yet, so I didn't exactly know what my procedure wanted to be. I had a set up for a second hearing, which is I don't know what they call the second one, when I had I got another public defender that was supposed to be very good at the top of the food chain. And in the meantime, I had gotten these motions and got them set up for being to submit to the court. When I went to my second hearing, I had a substitute for this person that was supposed to be there. And when I handed her these motions and said I wanted them filed, she said, "Oh, we can't do that. This is not procedure, and we have to check with the head, this other gal who was my top public defender." And I didn't have a problem with this at the time, but I was being advised that that wasn't a smart thing to do, that they're lying to me, and they're going to pull some shenanigans. I did a little more research on my own and saw that there is a spot in one of the procedural things that says you can basically file your motions at any time, so I wasn't afraid that I wouldn't be able to file those, and also knew that I could probably file or fire the public defender right up to the moment that there's a trial and a decision can be made by a jury. I wasn't terribly concerned about that, but I was advising each one of these people that they could easily be fired, that I was willing to do that and stand on my own. So I knew that this public defender had those motions in her hand, and I called her up when she came back from the vacation she was on, which was the day before the third hearing, which was on November 14th. And she said, well, she had to look these over for their legal merits and things of that nature, which I felt from my research and what I'd seen that they stood on pretty firm ground. I went to that hearing the next day, and after going in there and asking around who this woman actually was and having some smiles from what turned out to be the actual DA assistant that was going to be the lead person on the DA side in the case, the public defender walked by me and said, after I met her, and I didn't say anything about those motions being filed, but she did say that it looked like they were going to dismiss all these counts. And of course I was pretty elated about that, but I wasn't quite sure that was going to happen at that point. Then they basically did dismiss all of those charges without those motions being filed. And basically my feeling on this was that those motions were so devastating to the record that they didn't want those on the record for other attorneys to see, that might be able, or other people that might be able to find out why my cases were dismissed. The first thing that they did offer on this was on the very first day, just to show how weak their case was in a way from the get-go, because they knew that I'd been standing on my constitutional rights, on my rights of free passage and travel. At that point, the DA offered to kick those 3 counts, but give me a disturbing the peace violation. I don't remember if it was going to be a misdemeanor or an infraction, but I still refused that because I didn't want any of this on my record to begin with, because this whole incident caused a number of other incidences, because my license turned up to be suspended because I was put on this hospitalization mental hold because I was basically standing on my rights and telling them that they were assaulting me and kidnapping me and torturing me. Again, my feeling is that they didn't want these motions to actually be put into the record because when the public defender went through all of the cases that they were really whittling away at, and they took us actually into a different courtroom from the courtroom where other people were there pretty much getting beat up by the system. And they took us into another room, and my file was on the bottom of her pile, which made me feel that my case was the first one that she put on the pile, knowing that she was going to get rid of it. So it was more of a slam dunk, knowing that she was going to be able to show those motions or tell the to the DA and get this dismissed. So again, everybody else was already cleared out of the courtroom when she got to my file. I was the very last file, and they said, dismissed in the interest of justice. And they wrote on the minute order, lack of evidence. So there was no corpus delicti, as it says in the motions, and they had no crime. So, and I had already entered a plea of not guilty, and of course found out that there's more than one plea that you can enter. And but we had the motion to take that plea out, and then also the motion on I forget what they were called, advising the judge on the jurisdiction, and then the one on the traffic stop that the police uses as an emergency when it isn't an emergency.
Right.
I forget the names of those 3. I don't have them in front of me. But all through this process, it seemed that they were very afraid of these motions. They didn't like the idea of somebody who's not in their club, so to speak, filing motions or having motions even to do. And when I had those presented to the public defender that was the higher up person that handled my case, she was going, well, this is a team effort and stuff like that. And I basically said, well, I'm the captain of the team. Who are you working for? And I'm perfectly willing to fire you too, and go out on my own. And I'll ask for a continuance for a year to study the law and find legal counsel or however they wanted to have it. But I was not going to let them squeeze me and try to negotiate some kind of a plea bargain on this, because I felt we had the strength with the motions. All I had to do was get them in front of the people that were going to be scared of them.
Yeah, and I think what helped out a lot was the fact that you kept pushing the motions on your public defender.
I'm sorry, what was that?
What helped out the most was that you were pushing the motions on that public defender.
Well, yeah, I had to push them on them, and it kind of didn't surprise me that they didn't use them in court.
Yeah.
Again, the feeling is that they don't want those kind of motions for people to know about them, and by putting them in the record, there was going to be other attorneys or other people that have access to them, and I don't know if it's something we'd want to do is mass email them to a bunch of criminal attorneys or not.
Well, you can't really. You can do that if you want, but I'm saying the whole point of a criminal attorney or any attorney in general is their livelihood is pretty much stringing this whole case along, if not at least as far as public defenders go, getting a plea bargain to get you out of the way and get the next client or customer in. That's my feeling on that.
Yeah, when you see what's going on in the courtroom and you see these kids that have a DUI or public intoxication or something like that, where there's, public intoxication and some of the possession things are where these kids, you got to sympathize with them because their lives are ruined for trying to get a job or some of the things that it gets dragged through these days when they have no defense because they don't know that they're not in the commercial jurisdiction. You can stand on your common law, rights of there's no damages, there's no crime.
Right. Well, that to me, that's so much isn't common law. That honestly is just law, statutory or penal, whatever they want to call it. Penal codes, it's in the motion itself state that what a crime is, and so does in the motor vehicle code. And I believe these cops are just doing what they want because they've been trained in direct violation of the law.
It is a little bit of misspeaking when I say common law. It's the statutes and the criminal law that there's no, if in the code there doesn't have to be any damages.
Yeah. But listen.
Talking about your military admiralty jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's all fake. But I'm gonna stop the video now because it's already 12 minutes, and I really want to thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.